listening to them. Yeah, that was my best mentor, Rob Robert, said, if you show up and work hard enough and listen, your novel will present itself to you, which was just really valuable because I think a lot of people break down when they're trying to shove their characters into doing things or trying to guide the story in a really specific way forward, and it doesn't format to that. You have to, as my friend LP Kindred says, leave room for magic and sort of explore a little bit. I'm not saying that I'm not trying to dictate that you can't outline, because some people, I think any way that someone is writing is correct as long as they get there. But I do find that listening to the story and asking questions of the characters leaves room for them to surprise you, which is really nice. I think if you're finding yourself bored, your reader's going to sense that. So it's partly discovery and sort of knowing the path. And I think it was E.L. Doctorow who said it's like driving in the fog. You know the road is there, but you can only see as far as the headlights. And so you just, have to have a little faith.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, where we get to talk to great authors. An author you can fall in love with, and you can buy all their books. And trust me, there's a lot of books. For Kate, you're going to love this conversation. I'm so glad to have Kate here on the show. Kate, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you on Living the Next Chapter.
Thanks. I'm super happy to be here.
Excellent. Tell everybody where you are this beautiful day today. Where are you?
I am in Los Angeles, just basically on the opposite side of the mountain that has the Hollywood sign on it.
Oh, okay. That's not too far from you then. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard that Alice Cooper bought one of the letters. That's kind of like Wheel of Fortune,
oh, wow.
right?
I hadn't.
Yeah,
I had not heard that. That sign has so much lore.
Really?
There was, yeah. So
interesting. It's kind of like Wheel of Fortune, where somebody can buy a vowel, I guess, right? There's a lot of vowels there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go.
I don't know what good that letter will do him or what sort of custody he has over that letter, because people are always climbing up there.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, okay. Now I've got a good point of reference for where you guys are. That's really good. Excellent. We have readers here that come to the show and they're looking for their next favorite author. So if you could get in front of a group of people, maybe at the local bookstore, and you could kind of corral them into a conversation, how would you kind of introduce your writing to the audience so that we can kind of help people understand kind of where you are as an author and what they can expect from a book from Kate?
Yeah. It's kind of funny because you can expect different things.
Okay.
The book that we're going to talk about today is Alterations, which is a family drama and a novel that's set in 1930s Hollywood and also in 1990s Baltimore. In 1930s Hollywood, there's a woman, Adriana, who moves to Los Angeles to assist a costume designer, and some fans of Hollywood might know the name Edith Head, who ran costume department at Paramount Studios. She ends up working for her, and she also falls in love with a bit player named Rose, and they move in together, and everything goes well because in those days it was a little easier for two women together to appear as spinsters, even if they were in love. And slowly Adriana's job and circumstances start to interfere. And it has repercussions through 3 generations of her family. So the in present time is through the point of view of Adriana Older and her granddaughter Laura, who has moved in with her, having failed at becoming an executive in Hollywood, and her granddaughter Lizzie, who's been recently orphaned. So it's a really sort of dense 3 point of view, rich sort of family story. And while there's sad stuff in it, it's also, I have heard from readers, it's also meant to be a place of joy, and also that family doesn't always mix right away. There's always been that trope that you moving with your grandparents and everything goes swimmingly, and the grandparent is usually a very flat sort of character, but you're actually moving in with a person who has lived an entire life and might be dealing with things of their own. So, but what I would say is that I'm also known for writing horror. So, I came out with another book called The Collective this summer. I worked in development and film for a good 10 years. And I had thoughts I worked with some executives. There was a certain level of, I don't know, a fuzzy relationship with morality that I thought was interesting. And so I created, again, another multi-character point of view story with sort of demons running behind. So
Interesting.
it was a fun way to deal with sort of really nasty personalities in Hollywood. So
Wow, there's an underlying story there. I can just it's kind of it's bubbling up while you're chatting, but I can sense there's a theme there. Yeah.
There's some stuff back there. Definitely in Alterations, it's more a love letter to old films. And the collective definitely has a lot of fun stuff because while I was an executive, we got to go to ridiculous parties where they blocked off the whole Universal lot, and every single Universal employee could go down for a Christmas treat, and they made it snow and they had crazy food for everybody. And what I loved about it is that was executives and also food service people who work at Universal. So it was like this really beautiful party in what I call the gay 90s because everybody had so much money then. Yeah. It was just a different planet.
So I'm getting from you that you write like completely differently in what you're approaching. Is there some kind of tie or thread between your writings though that still wraps them together?
I mean, a lot of themes come up. I think sort of themes of definitely themes that I don't know. These two books I think are very different, but I often talk about love. Like my first novel, Harrowgate, I didn't know it was a horror novel. It was a love story, and one of them was dead. That turned out to be. So, I'm usually getting at questions of relationships. And in the collective, the demon and the person who works directly for him, it's more about how hard it is to be friends with a narcissist when you believe they have your best interests at heart, but they don't. So I'm always looking at those spaces in really intense relationships. I think that would be usually what I'm after.
So there's a relationship level in the books then, right? Family relationships, then dynamics within family.
Yeah, and I guess it's working, and it's a working relationship in the collective. But yeah, family really fascinates me, and all of it's very subtle things that go on. Usually, those stories that we're told about the one big happy family or certain things are, which is wonderful. I mean, if that is your reality, that's beautiful. But most books I know have some slight nuances and complexities in their families.
Okay. So for Alterations, then, your ideal reader, there's a little bit of a nod towards Hollywood, a little bit of movie magic there as well, and that's part of it, right?
Yeah. And also how, stuff that happens in your youth has, can ripple through a lot. And how people sort of, there is a lot around what people expect out of sort of couplehood. Because like Laura, the reason that her job falls apart is that she puts too much stake in supporting this male executive that she falls in love with. And she then ends up somehow becoming a housewife in that scenario, and it does not go well. So there's a lot about that as well.
I get from you as well, there's maybe wrestling with someone's identity and how they are represented in the world as well. That's another key element for you?
Absolutely. And for Adriana, she was, she is always all the way through gay, but that does not go well in the 30s. Yeah. And also identity as far as, when you have, I remember when my mom had her first kid, she was a reporter in the 50s, and she said, I had a kid and then I was fired because in the 50s, the expectation was she came in pregnant and they were like, well, aren't you going to stay home? And she's like, no, I need to save money. I'm having a kid. And then the minute she did have the kid, they just quietly let her go. So there is that sort of question for women of a certain period where if your job defines you and then it's taken away from you, what's your relationship with that? No one in Adriana's 60s and 70s and 80s life, meaning her age, really understands that she had a full, rich professional life before, and not even her grandkids know. So that's something that slowly surfaces.
I guess, too, the dynamic between a grandparent and a granddaughter And the age gap as well plays into the story.
Yeah, and we often underestimate older people. So it is definitely trying to fight a little bit of ageism. I think I've seen a lot of older women just treated as if, they with the grandmotherly image. Most of the older women I've known, my husband's grandmothers were amazing, and I was really good friends with them. And one of them presented very much like little old lady, And she was like so brilliant and had the coolest stories and was so wicked smart. But everybody she encountered in her day would sort of pat her on the head, So as we all get older, thinking about how older people are treated and sort of, pushed aside when actually they have the most interesting stories.
Right. Yeah. So that you're celebrating that in the book then?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Who would you say age-wise for Alterations? Who's your target reader for this book?
That's a really good question. I think that I've had some readers in their 20s really enjoy it, because I think also Laura is in her 20s and trying to find her way. And that's something that we can all identify with. And when you when you're in your 20s and making maybe not the best decisions and things, she speaks to that. But I know that older readers have also been really enthusiastic to see sort of the journey that Laura's had. So, I would hope the 20 to 80 range.
Okay,
I know
good.
that doesn't exist in marketing, but that's who it's meant to appeal to.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to put this in terms for the audience that are listening to know, this is a good book for me, and someone else I know is going to love it. So I'm going to buy an extra copy. Why not buy two, right? And then send it to them as well. So.
Yeah. And, it's really nice. What a lot of response I've been getting is, especially for local readers here in LA, is that they have grandparents who were that deeply involved in the industry during that time. And they just start sharing their stories with me, which is really wonderful.
Tell me a little bit more about the research behind Alterations. Where did you go? How did you gain all the information to help write the book?
Well, so I grew up in a house, this will date me, before VHS. And my father founded the film department at Wesleyan University along with John Fraser, another professor there. And so we were lucky enough that when he would get a movie for class, he would get a 16 millimeter version, and we had a 16 millimeter projector at home. So I grew up completely steeped in all of the romantic comedies and the Astaire and Rogers movies and Cary Grant. So when I started this, my friend with whom I exchange a lot of novels, Toni Ann Johnson, who's a beautiful writer, look her up. She said, "Why aren't you writing something about old film? You love it so much." So for research, I actually just started picking up books on people I really admired. When I was 15, I had a stint where I wanted to be a costume designer, and I did a lot of sewing around then. And so my parents, I was really well schooled in Edith Head. And also I adored Cary Grant, so I read his bio, and I adored Barbara Stanwyck, and I read hers, and she actually appears in the book. But it was in Cary Grant's story that I found the sad love story between him and Randolph Scott, who were partners for 7-8 years. They lived together. There are these adorable bachelor spreads you can look up where they were saying these two bachelors and showing their home. And it was clearly just two guys in love having the best time. And Cary Grant's career started to really push up against that. And they eventually broke up. I think Randy was just out of the closet. I think he was fine with everything. And with Cary Grant, it was a little bit different, and finally the studio found him a wife, and Randy went on the honeymoon. He moved in with a wife, and Randy moved in with them. And, there was all this like pushing back against this. I felt badly for the wives because, but I think it was finally that they were a little too brazen one day, and the studio finally spoke with him, but no one can really be sure. But that really made me so sad, thinking about someone having to bury who they are so deeply.
Interesting.
If anybody is interested in that area of Hollywood, that closeted era of Hollywood, there's a really great documentary by Matt Turnauer called Scotty and the Secret History of Hollywood, which is about a guy who ran tricks out of a gas station. But what he was basically doing was making sure that gay actors could, meet people and hook up on a very discreet level. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
That's where that all came from.
So the underlining theme and tone here, why is that so important for you as an author to bring light to this story in context of Alterations then?
Well, so also as a person, I have a very queer family. My aunt, it seems like we're pretty much half and half. And I actually have a great aunt who lived with the love of her life, Mary, in Jacksonville, Florida in 1915, if you can believe that,
Wow.
in a hugely conservative environment. But they got away with the Boston marriage model, which is what they call when two women live together, and they call them spinsters. And my grandfather used to go around and do for them. He would take care of, anything needed doing around the house or mowing the lawn. And it just took the center and heart of this book. My hope is that people can read this and feel a little more kindly about older people in their life, and also read this and maybe think that some relatives who may have been queer at a time it was not okay, might have been struggling in more ways than one, and may have had to close themselves off in more ways than one as well. So, but it's not that I set out to write this book with a message. It's more that my characters took me there.
Oh,
and
okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I wish, I would like to talk about, that's not usually how I start out with books. I just sort of see the characters and who they are. And it's a little bit woo-woo, but, I see who they are and listen to their stories.
See, no, I think that's special, right? I think that's a gift that you're tapping into. And it's a story that doesn't get enough attention. So I feel it's a good thing.
I know so many people with older relatives in their life who came out very late in life, or didn't at all, or they found out after they, died, which was the saddest thing I'd ever heard. So I'm hoping now people can live more fully and openly, and there's a lot more support for that, which is good. But I still know many, many people in the queer community whose families are not okay with it, and they've had to stop talking to them.
Wow, it's amazing. You'd think that in 2025 things would be better, but right.
Yeah. And I think in some ways they are. I think obviously there are people speaking very brazenly in terrible ways right now, especially in our country. But I think one thing is this book I finished in 2013, and editors were having trouble putting it on a shelf because they were like, it's not LGBTQI enough, and it's not straight enough. I don't know what they were looking for, but it seems as if that conversation has matured in the past 10 years, to the level that it's no thing, it might just be the right time for it. So it is really sad that governmentally things are changing and getting really threatening and terrible, but socially, I think that the kids are all right. A lot of them are totally. Some of the conversations that we have so seriously at our age, I'm not presuming, but anyway, at an age of people maybe born in the last century, kids today are just like, why are you even talking about this? They're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
So then for Alterations then, what are you hearing from readers? Is there anything that shocked you, surprised you, delighted you when you hear back from readers?
Been mostly delightful. People really, I don't know. It's so exciting because especially you write something and you write very alone.
Yeah.
And I've had so many really lovely, rich emails from people who are just thrilled. And if anybody reads this and wants to write to me, go to my website at katemaruyama.com. There's a form for that. It goes right to my email. I love hearing from readers.
Well done, by the way. That was good placement of the website. Good job.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, good.
And I've heard a lot of people, damn you made me cry, and things like that, which is nice. But also people who are talking about sort of things come up for everybody in a different way. And so it makes them think about their families, or it makes them, some people just go back to the 90s because there's a lot of 90s stuff in there. Or people will write to me about their love of old movies. So I think it kind of hit different notes in different people. So that's been really lovely. And I had my first, it's very funny. I don't think listeners understand that book reviews are actually not they don't happen for everybody. They sometimes happen for the top 20 books that are coming out that year or something.
Right.
So I had a really in-depth, beautiful interview from someone who had read it really deeply. And they brought up themes that I hadn't even thought about, just of how hard it is for women in all different ways to sort of move through the world. So that part was really exciting. So it's been positive, which has been lovely.
Okay. All right. And when did Alterations come out?
It came out in March of this year.
Wow. So it's just a wee little baby then.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I just did my first I went to Chicago to a bookstore there. That's the first travel that I've done for the book. So I'm sort of rolling slowly with it. I hope that it slowly finds readers over the summer. And it is fun that you can kind of sink into, which is a fun, I love books that sort of carry me along and get me wrapped up in a story. And I had one reader who said that he missed the characters when the book ended, which was nice. So
does Alterations lend itself to something more in the future to kind of complement it?
As in another book?
Yeah, maybe something. Maybe.
I don't know. I'm not. It's very funny. My first book, spoiler, but someone was like, "Why aren't you doing a sequel?" And I'm like, "Because everybody's dead." It's actually not a spoiler because the ones who are dead are dead at the beginning of the book.
Okay, good.
Very funny. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's definitely made me want to sink into another family or something like that. Not with these particular characters. It's definitely of a piece.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed sort of the journey of writing it and the journey of research. So maybe I'll find something else that sort of feeds me in that way to write forward in.
All right. Tell me more about the collective then, too. Like, you made some comment to me when we chatted originally that the nicest people are horror writers. And I was like,
yes.
Wait, that's not a sentence I've heard often. So expand.
It's very funny. Yeah. So I have a poet friend who I brought to StokerCon in Pittsburgh because he lived there, and he suddenly wants to go to every horror convention that there is. I think horror writers get it out on the page, so there's just nothing nasty left. It's really, they're the sweetest people. I think another reason is that often horror is dismissed. If I say I write horror, some people will be like, "Oh," and I'm like, I'm not writing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre here. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think they tend to, I don't know, get the ick or something. So I think because we're kind of low on the totem pole of varieties of literature, there's a lot less ego to deal with, which is really nice. So people who think of themselves as fancy horror writers are not. And so if you go to a horror conference, you can talk to people who you will later find out actually are incredibly famous or in their field. Everybody just can hang out and chat. So the collective was that was another long story, and it ended up, I mean, as far as leading to publication, it's actually a little bit slimmer.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
But it came out initially from Writ Large Press, which is a really lovely small press out of Pittsburgh, who they started in Los Angeles, but they're very community minded. And so while they are publishing books, they are also setting up events, literary events around cities that are accessible to people, literary and music events. They're now working on a bookstore. They just got gifted a building in Pittsburgh to give back to a neighborhood where they're going to create oral history of this neighborhood. It's a steel town that had gone under. And so they're trying to create oral histories while creating a bookstore. Anyway, they're amazing. So they released the book first as a serial because they were like, you know what, we've never done that. I wonder if we have a subscription, people will sign up for getting a new chapter in their inbox all the time. And then it was released digitally last year. And then it also came out in March of this year.
Wow.
That was busy. Yeah. So I have to change hats. Like I'm in my literary hat. I'm in the horror hat. You know, I'm going to the StokerCon, which is in Connecticut this year, armed with the collective, and it's it's been busy. It's been really wonderful because I mean, if there are any writers out there, it took I had a very, very big dry spell, and then all of a sudden things started getting published. So that was really nice.
Okay, so between Alterations in the Collective, were you writing them at the same time or different times? How did that work?
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I started Alterations right after my first novel got picked up.
Okay.
And it took me 3 to 5 years to write. And then when it was out on offer, that's when I started the Collective.
Okay. What's
I do write 2 things at once, but it's usually something short and something long. I haven't yet done 2 novels at once. That would be a lot.
Is there a rationale between a short and long project at the same time?
Yeah, because long projects will frustrate you and will tell you that they are worthless and that you don't want to spend any more time on them. And during those periods, it's good to go write something short to get your confidence back.
Like a little palate cleanser. Do this?
Yeah, and like all the problems on the long ones start to sort in the back of your head if you can write a short.
Okay. What's the general story of the Collective for a reader? What are they going to expect?
Yeah, so it is a young woman who moves to Hollywood to become a star, live the dream. She ends up working for Simon Wraith. She falls in with a crowd of people who give her a new name and get her to acting classes, and it seems very intoxicating and lovely. And she ends up working for the man who runs this. It's called The Collective, named Simon Wraith, and he's very mysterious and strange. But we're also in the point of view of someone who knows Simon and Jonathan. Jonathan is his lead executive, who works for Variety, and he slowly wants to do a biography of them. But the more he researches, the more kind of fishy stuff comes up. And then it's in the point of view of Jonathan, who works very closely with Simon and loves him very dearly, but is starting to be sort of iced out of the production. And all of them sort of collide at high speeds. And it ends up sort of showing that this organization has been around longer than anybody thought, back since Charlie Chaplin days, and also that it is volatile and kind of close to being discovered. There's some murders. So I'm trying to like what can you spoil without spoiling?
Yeah.
Right. It turns out there are dead people in the past of the So it's sort of a slow. It's a very immersive, slow burn horror novel. It reminds me of sort of those big thick books you'd read in the 90s on the beach, I really, so it's full of intrigue, and the really like horror-y stuff kind of only really happens at the climax. It's more about all of these people and about, again, relationships, and finding out when you have all of the juice and all of the power that you're slowly being ousted, which happens at a certain age if you're working in Hollywood, unless you're one of maybe 4 people to whom that did not happen.
So Hollywood is a huge theme for you as well, and what you know well.
With these 2, yeah. I mean, I've written other stuff. I think it's just that it was on my mind, and I was getting it out of my system in a couple of ways. But yeah, I've written a bunch of things that are not at all set there. It's just very coincidental that these 2 came out in the same time period.
Okay. Being that Hollywood is known for the visual aspect of what happens in Hollywood, how much is a visual approach for you as an author? Are you writing in pictures? Or are you focused on the story and the pictures come later?
Yeah, I come from screenwriting, so I think I am very visual. Yeah. What I love about fiction, though, is screenwriting. It's the images that you're seeing, but in fiction, you're in the body of your character living it. There's definitely a lot of sensory stuff, and a lot about. I love this city so much, Los Angeles, and there's a lot more to LA than just what's seen in the movies. It's a really rich, layered history of the city that goes back all the way to the Tongva, but there's also like a vibrant, multicultural population that's been here since actually the large amount of white people really only came from 1915 after. Yeah. But I think people get an impression of the city through movies, which are made by a lot of transplants. So they don't really understand the city. And so often when you travel, people are like, oh, La La Land. And, have you gotten plastic surgery and all these other sort of their ideas of things. But It's a super vibrant city. There are so many writers here who are not writing screenplays also. And there's a really rich, diverse artistic population as well.
What I find interesting from your story is I talk to authors who are taking books and turning them into screenplays. You're coming from a screenplay to books. I mean, it's kind of the opposite. Like you're passing each other compared to some of the other people I talk to. So what's the unique abilities that you have from your background that you bring to writing?
It's interesting. I grew up, my mom was a fiction writer, and there was a notion in my family that only one person in the family had a certain skill.
Oh.
When my brother picked up the camera to take photographs, my dad put it down, and we were like, we still need family portraits. We're on vacation. You can use your camera. And so I went into screenwriting in my 20s. I had always been writing fiction, though, also. And I came up with a plot that it just wasn't going to be a movie. And so I wrote my first novel that never got published when I was in my early 30s. And I really loved the freedom of fiction to get into what people are feeling and the sensory stuff, which was really wonderful. And screenwriting dried up after a while, and I pursued fiction. And when I went into graduate school, that's what my focus was on, because I had really learned screenwriting from being an executive and from writing spec scripts and things like that. But I think what you get that's unique when you're a screenwriter is structure. I got very good at structure, dialogue. The things I had to learn were point of view, in that when a story is being told, it's usually within one person's head and what they know,
Right.
Instead of the camera view. So that was a learning curve for me. And also, when I was writing fiction in my grad program, my instructors were like, yes, but what do they look like? Because the whole thing in screenwriting is that you can't talk about what people look like, because you need every actor to imagine themselves in the role. So there was a lot to learn, but I did come in with a really strong background in also being able to cut stuff mercilessly. If it's not serving the story, I will cut it. And that's something I find I teach writing as well. A lot of my writers that I work with have a lot of trouble editing. I have no problem at all. I have like zero ego tied up in it. I'm sort of listening to the story and seeing what serves it.
How do you create an atmosphere for your characters to lead you? You talked about that for,
listening to them. Yeah.
How do you create that atmosphere?
My best mentor, Rob Robert, said, if you show up and work hard enough and listen, your novel will present itself to you, which was just really valuable, because I think a lot of people break down when they're trying to shove their characters into doing things or trying to guide the story in a really specific way forward, and it doesn't format to that. You have to, as my friend LP Kindred says, leave room for magic and sort of explore a little bit. I'm not saying that I'm not trying to dictate that you can't outline, because some people, I think any way that someone is writing is correct, as long as they get there. But I do find that listening to the story and asking questions of the characters leaves room for them to surprise you, which is really nice. I think if you're finding yourself bored, your reader's going to sense that.
Right.
So it's partly discovery and sort of knowing the path. And I think it was E.L. Doctorow who said it's like driving in the fog. You know the road is there, but you can only see as far as the headlights. Right. And so you just, have to have a little faith.
Yeah, slow down, because you can't drive too fast because you can't see what's ahead of you, right? So slow down, take it easy, and concentrate. That's when I drive in the fog. 100% focus on what I'm doing so I don't go off the road. So that's all good parallels for authors then too.
Yeah, it's funny because any writer who teaches writing has their own metaphors. It's so funny. There are so many different, it's your novel is a house. Yeah. Your novel is the road. I think Stephen King was like, your novel is a dinosaur that's just beneath the surface, dinosaur bones. Everybody's got their own thing. Writers.
I like that. One author I was talking to, we talked about my friend is one of those chainsaw carvers, and you'll take a log and turn it into something, right? And I asked him, he can turn him into a bear, right? This big bear. And I'm like, how do you do that? He's like, well, it's not that hard. I'm like, well, it looks hard. How do you know how to get a bear out of a tree? He said, it's easy. You just cut off everything that's not a bear.
Oh, that's so great.
And I'm like, well, that's a good lesson for life, right?
It is a really good lesson for life. The best note I ever got on, actually, it was on Alterations, was, "This is amazing. Now take out everything that's not the novel."
Oh,
That was the editing note.
wow. How did that land for you?
Well, it was all right. It came with some specifics, but yeah, that's just like the most confounding note a person can get. But it was true. There are things that were slowing it down, or scenes that didn't serve the way things were moving forward. And, lots got to go. I think I cut like 100 pages of that and then added 60 back, like created 60 new pages. It's wild, the process.
That's an interesting comment to you, being a person that knows the power of editing. Right. That's
and I think I got that from screenwriting, from working with screenwriters. I think that's where that was definitely a benefit from there, because you do so much cutting and you have to not be emotional about it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay. So for the readers and for the authors that are listening, they're looking to connect with you, Kate, and follow your journey, continue your watching you, and be interested as well, maybe learning from you. Where do you want to send the listeners? I would love to kind of point them in that direction. Your website's beautiful, by the way. And then I kind of want to wrap up with kind of a closing questions for you, but kind of take us to your website.
Yeah, I am at Kate Maruyama on most platforms. I'm on Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky. Blue Sky is at Kate Maru. And my website is really sort of a hub. You can find all kinds of connecting there. And if you want to drop me a note about upcoming classes, you can do that. There's an email form. It comes right to me. So that's katemaruyama.com.
Okay. And tell us about your Substack as well.
Oh, I do a Substack. There's a sign up on my website called Read, Write, Cook. Someone said, if you're going to do a newsletter, you've got to do it on the things that you can do. And those are basically the 3 things I can do. So every time you get that letter, there'll be a little catching up about my writing life, but you'll also get a recommendation for a book to read. You'll get some writing prompts and a recipe of some kind. So
there you go. Okay. Well, that's nice. Yeah. That's really good to have. So yeah, we'll send everybody there. We'll have links for that in the show notes. So Kate, again, let's honor the authors that are here, because I love to kind of encourage them from your perspective. For the whole idea about editing and feeling nervous about either giving your work to someone to be edited or self-editing, you say like you're fine cutting and cutting and cutting, but for those people who are a little bit nervous about that, how do we divorce ourselves from the story to be more subjective and to not get our feelings hurt by cutting out these things that are really our passion? How do we create some distance there?
Yeah, that I learned through rearing kids. They are going to be who they are, no matter what you do. So someone once said, editing is a way of teaching your reader the best way to read your story. So when you're editing, you're trying to make sure that all of the stuff that you felt when you wrote it is actually communicating to the reader. And also that you haven't left heavy stuff in there that was really only for you. But I have never had anybody edit a story where it got worse. It always got better. Yeah. If your idea is to write for readers and to engage with readers, and your editors are your first readers. So they're telling you what's not clear. They're telling you what they need more of. And they're helping you sort of see your story. So, you do, letting go of ego is a practice that takes a while. I think for me, I that happened in screenwriting. But also make sure that you're listening to your story. And if there's someone who's giving you a note and it seems like the worst idea for your story, I usually look at that note a little bigger and say, okay, what are they not getting?
Yeah.
I've often gotten notes from my agent. I was like, oh, he completely missed this point. That means I need to go back and make that point stronger.
Right. Okay.
You actually don't have to make that change.
Okay. That makes sense. It's good. Kate, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. What a great conversation.
Keep me in mind, because I know you're going to keep writing. I know you're going to keep doing new things. I know my audience loves when a guest comes back and gives us an update on new projects. So again, we can come and support you as readers. So please keep me in mind. I'd love to have you come back in the future.
I would love that. And I would also love if readers would reach out when you like something. That'd be amazing. And also, if you are budget challenged, one of the best things you can do for an author is ask for a book at your local library.
Smart. That's a good recommendation.
It's really helpful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Very good. And for those that are able to, when you buy a book from Kate, any of these great books, please leave a great review. I know Kate would love to hear your thoughts. That's our way as readers to give our words back to our favorite authors. You've given us your words in the book. We give our words back as a review. And that's something that all of us can do to support you as well. And that'll help more people come and fall in love with your books as well. And to all the horror writers out there, apparently you're the nicest people in the world, and I'd love to meet you all. So Kate spoke very highly of you on the podcast. So to all our horror writers, we love you. So that's it.
Take your local horror writer out for a drink.
There you go. They don't bite. Only in the book, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Kate, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dave. It's been great.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Glad to have you here. I just want to let you know that you can always find out what we're doing live in the moment by going to our YouTube channel. Head over to livingthenextchapter.com. There'll be a link right there. Head over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things that all the YouTubers love to say. And in our YouTube channel, a couple things. You're going to get advanced listens. You're going to get the episodes that we're working on in real time. So we record and post daily on our YouTube channel. I'd love for you to give us a follow over there. As well, we're making playlists. We have over 500 episodes. So finding the right episode for you, we're trying to group things into playlists. So if you like children's books, if you like business, you like historical fiction, we're grouping our authors together to make it a little easier for you to find your favorite next author. So head over to livingthenextchapter.com. And again, I'd love to hear from you. Hearing from the listeners of the show is great. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of the podcast family. And I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time and your listen. Take care.